Join the coven. I Hunt Reverse Vampires 2. A story written by Cecily 1987. Part 3. The following excerpt is from the personal diary of Celia Straub. Celia Straub has been instructed by in-house psychiatrists to keep a detailed diary of her day-to-day routine in order to better process and deal with the stresses of being a hunter's apprentice from such a young age. Celia showed an above-average aptitude in dealing with the death, tragedies, and extreme violence she has witnessed while performing her job alongside her aunt, Miranda Ma Crawford. Ma has expressed concern that her niece may be broken like me, and has pushed for monthly therapy lessons for Celia. The following was taken from Celia's Google document she used for her diary. Only Celia and her therapist had access to the document at the time. Celia seems to have added this entry during her and her aunt's urgent dispatch to the New Orleans job. Entry 1. You're going so fast. I felt like Ma's rusty old pickup, the Beast, would shake itself apart. I imagined the two of us rumbling down the highway as the truck broke apart around us. The truck completely disintegrated, leaving Ma holding the steering wheel as we skidded to a stop on our butts in the middle of the road. Ma's pickup should have been taken out to a field and put out of its misery years ago, but she refused to abandon the aging vehicle. And now she was pushing it to the limit as we rocketed down I-10 East from Houston to New Orleans, Louisiana. I was on a need-to-know basis with the Ahmet clan. Ma was high up in the organization and received all the juicy details about each case we went on. 9 times out of 10, she filled me in on everything. This time, she only said one thing to me. The farm boy is walking into the lion's den without us. When we passed into Louisiana and then New Orleans, I figured it out. We are dealing with the Madame? I said sharply. The Madame was no one to mess with, and she operated on the darker edges of the supernatural society. Ahmet barely tolerated her, and she and Ma barely tolerated each other. Well, whatever it was, I was excited to see my scared little pup again. I can't judge him too harshly. I met him on the hardest day of his life, and he still showed strength. Years later, and with all his training, I bet you he's even cuter than ever. He was pretty young when I met him, so it's kinda creepy of me to say that. Is it wrong to think someone is cute when they are younger, and hope they grow into it even more when they get older? Yeah, maybe I'm a freak. Call the FBI. At least no one will read this except maybe my doctor, and he has read a lot worse from me and others. Love you, Dr. C. Well, Ma must have been speeding the whole way because we were already in the city. I'll let you know how everything turns out. Next entry, entered 2 days later. Oh my god, oh damn! Things went from 0 to 100 and then kept cranking up to 200, 300, and 400. As soon as we stepped out of the beast, we were fighting for our lives. I noticed it first. Like always, I always spot magical distortions. It's the reason Mom made a contract with the Lesser Angel for it, to give me its preternatural sight. Ma was always seeking out angels, and even demons who were willing to trade or open contracts with humans. I never figured out what she was looking for with them, but at least she made a deal to give me this super sweet power. We pulled up into the cemetery's parking lot. when I saw it. A giant, iridescent barrier rose up from the fence line around the property. It looked like the swirly multicolors of oil when stirred vigorously in a puddle of water. The spinning, inky shimmer constantly changing into every shade on the color spectrum. They were vibrant as they took on many beautiful patterns dancing in the air, far up into the sky. It was a magical barrier, and a very powerful one at that. This was a defensive spell of some sort, and the vibrant, spinning clouds meant even more magic was going on within. Scary thing was, I knew we didn't have time to figure out what the magical barrier would do to us when we crossed it. We were out of time, and Ma would insist we push through. "Look," Ma said, pointing to the only van in the parking lot. I immediately saw all 4 of its tires had been blown out, and it had been riddled with bullets, with glass shattered out one window. My body tensed, and I reached inside my jacket to feel the handle of my custom Colt 45. Supposedly it belonged to my granddad, and he passed it down to my mother. With her being dead, it was now mine. "Throw on a vest and grab the pump action," Ma said as she slammed the truck into park. She slid out of her seat effortlessly and aimed her revolver between her open door at the bullet-riddled van. "Grab me the Gilboa while I clear this vehicle. I'm pretty sure nothing is alive in there." She moved quickly towards the vehicle, gun raised high. I moved to the tailgate to unlock the bed of the truck. I had been too distracted by the ominous wall of colorful magic to notice the very physical clues of danger right in front of me. I knew Ma had felt the presence of bad mojo in the area. Just didn't see it like me. Ma was more adept with magic than I was. She was more adept at a lot of things compared to me. I received the shoddy with Dragon's Breath rounds through a carrier with heavy plates over my shoulders to protect my chest and center of mass, and grabbed Ma's monstrous new toy, the Gilboa. The Gilboa was what it would look like if you welded 2 AR-15s together. It had 2 side-by-side barrels, 2 ejection ports, 2 mag ports, but shared one handle. Ma had kitted it out with a holoscope mounted to the right side and a laser sight on the left. The right mag held armor-piercing rounds, and the left held hollow points. Ma had been aching to bust this baby out ever since she tactically acquired it from a cult compound. "Professionals, not street punks," Ma's voice said behind me, almost making me jump. Controlled burst through the driver's side window, killing the driver. All headshots, completely negating the poor bastard's vest. I turned and handed Ma her monster of a rifle and checked my own as we began jogging towards the gated entrance of the cemetery. As we saddled up to the gateway, Ma stopped, most likely feeling the magical pressure coming from the shimmering wall. The only wasted ammunition was from a heavy caliber rocking down the side of the vehicle. Ma continued her report as I stood close to her. They were checking to see if anybody was riding in the back of the van, so we are dealing with 2 shooters at least, due to the different sizes of the bullet holes. Ma paused and looked over her shoulder at me, and I knew what question was coming next. "But what do I always say about discerning enemy strength?" she asked. "The rule of +1, I said with a sigh. "Always assume one more hostile than predicted, so you don't let your guard down, and you don't get flanked." "Good," Ma said, nodding at me, and then at the gate. "Can you take care of whatever magical barrier is on this gate, or do I need to intervene?" "That's the thing," I said back hesitantly. "In the short time it took us to walk over here, the magical warding around the gate has disappeared, like it's welcoming us in. At least we know the Madame is still alive. Ma said before throwing open the creaky gate and charging into the cemetery, me following close behind. The sudden wave of nausea and vertigo hit me as I crossed the gate threshold. At first I thought it was a defensive spell barrier, but Ma told me later it was a time displacement something from multiple timeliness running past our perception in what felt like an instant. I immediately expelled my half-digested lunch like some sort of barf dragon and fell sideways to headbutt some poor old lady's grave. Ma may have fared worse than me. Let's just say I was glad I had used the restroom at our last pit stop. When my head stopped spinning, I realized my ears were ringing from multiple bangs and explosions going off at once. The deafening noise only lasts 2 to 3 seconds, but when it ended, a single repeating shot continued from a rifle. "One, the other side of that church," Ma said after straightening herself. As we both began running towards the gunfire, we heard 2 loud explosions and a man screaming in rage. On the other side of the chapel was a paved road running down towards a gated-off area. Giant monolith gravestones flanked both sides of the road, making situational awareness a mess. But we could hear the man screaming, a terrible, hateful scream. "Take the left side of the road. I'm on the right," Ma commanded me. It was stupid to waltz right up the middle, but it seemed time was of the essence. "Yeah, do I walk through the valley of the shadow of the death?" I said sarcastically, at the quite literal interpretation of the gravestones casting shadows on the road. "Stop with the Bible nonsense," Ma snapped. "You know it weirds me out when you do that." I smiled at the sight of making Ma uncomfortable as we began our swift advance down the road. Fighting literal monsters didn't shake her, but a little Bible thumping always did. "Oh God, Taylor, what did you do? What did you do?" I heard a female's voice frantically calling. I peeled off the road around some gravestones before I hit the clearing at the end of the road, right before the gated-in area. I came up behind a tall, black-clad man, wearing a silver wolf mask, fighting with a well-muscled younger dude with long black hair. I knew instantly who the bad guy was. The Maverick was a Wolf Clan monster. I hated these guys. The young guy fighting him was quickly losing the fight as the mob forced him against a crypt. The man looked pale and weak. He had what I'm pretty sure was vomit down the front of his shirt. No matter, Celia was here to save his day. I stalked closer to the struggling pair, the mob's back to me. I was within reaching distance when the dark-haired guy saw me, his eyes flicking to me in surprise. I had dealt with Wolf Clan Mavs enough to know Muscle Dude had just put me in danger. I quickly stepped back away from a quick kick fired at me by the wolf. After he dropped his leg, I swooped right back in. I had dealt with his kind before, and I knew his weakness. I had to get close, intending to put the barrel of the shotgun under his chin, blasting him right through the seams of his Kevlar mesh bodysuit. But I misjudged the speed and dexterity of my enemy, as the mercenary quickly pulled his leg back, twisted his hips, and struck me hard in the stomach with his heavy boot from another kick. I let out an oof of air as I crumpled in on myself. My shotgun went off, nailing the mercenary right in his shoulder with an explosion of fire. The close-range blast caused the merc to lose balance and his grip on his struggling opponent. The dark, hard guy, Voss, I think, was more skilled than I predicted. He took advantage of his off-guard opponent by grappling the man's other arm and performing a near-perfect armbar, twisting the mercenary's arm up at a painful angle, while pushing his wolfy face into the dirt. Voss would have tried to step back and use the AR-15 slung around his midsection, but somehow he knew the rifle wouldn't work and was offering me up the kill. "Do it already!" the intense dude yelled up at me, while struggling to maintain the armbar on his resisting opponent. The look this Voss guy gave me was scarier than anything else I had seen in the cemetery. At that moment, I knew he was the one screaming that awful scream earlier. I ran up, almost skidding over the two, and put my shotgun to the base of the prick's neck. All the wolf mercenary did was scream in defiance, trying to look up at me as I racked a new shell and blew the back of his skull off. My ears were ringing as the burning brains of the bad guy's head cooked and his body fell limp. Voss fell back against the crypt and let out a big sigh of relief. "You, whoever you are, you have to help Mika," Voss demanded of me through labored breaths. "2 more are coming." "What the hell is wrong with you?" I asked him as he gasped and moaned. I didn't see any apparent injuries to him, but he was acting like he was dying. "Reverse spell," he gasped, "sealed my wound, but all internal damage remains." I have no idea what he was blabbering about at the time, so I pushed past him to see Mika, a tall brown girl with afro hair pulled back into a tight bun. Mika wasn't paying attention to anything but whatever was inside the black gate. "Taylor, your eye!" she yelled to someone on the inside of the gate. I turned to look at what Mika was so frightened by, and I gasped in fright myself. There he was, the young farm boy I'd rescued not so long ago. Again his face was covered with blood. His blood this time. But he smiled, nothing at all like his face of horror when I first found him. "You're back, Mika," Taylor said cheerfully, his left eye completely missing out of its socket, blood flowing freely. "He had to sacrifice something in order for me to revive you, Cherie," said the exhausted and shaking Madame Monroe kneeling beside him. "Go, and finish it. 2 more left," Monroe demanded. "I can't bring any of you back anymore. It will demand me as a sacrifice." That's when I heard weapons fire behind me. Oh God, it's in the direction of Ma went. She was facing 2 more wolf clan by herself. "Let's go, new girl," Mika said. It ticked me off. She was the noob here, and I'll show her to know her place around me. But before I took off in the direction of the chaos and gunfire, I looked at Taylor again. I could tell he was in shock as he finally noticed me, his remaining eye dilated like he was high. "Oh, Celia," he said in a lazy dreamlike state. "Sup?" he asked before collapsing to the ground. "That's all I'm going to give you right now. But we get out of this damn cemetery soon, after suffering another surprise. Boss."